being the stairs to your left as you leave the council chamber, the gallery at the left. Exit via the door at the back of the building and walk across the inner car park to the evacuation point, which is the pavement opposite the police station. The lifts cannot be used in the event of an emergency, and you cannot re-enter the building until you are advised by staff that it is safe to do so. Before we move to apologies, we're going to swap the agenda around a little bit just to make it easier for Eric and Amanda to clear off if they don't want to hang about. They're more than welcome to clear off. Something to hang about if they want to, but I do realise you might have other things to do on the evening. So we're going to move item 6, performance and budget, to after youth event. So hopefully that doesn't upset anyone. And I know Stuart needs to leave about 6:30. Okay. Apologies and changes in membership. Do we have any?
Yes, we do, Chairman. Tonight we've got apologies from Councillor David Adams, Councillor Stephen Hendry and Councillor Tig Outlaw, and we've got substitution members, Councillors Richardson, Drew and Oliver.
Welcome substitutes. Very apt during the World Cup. Left on the bench. Minutes of the previous meeting. Everyone happy that they're a true accurate representation? Thank you. Seconded by Steve. Don't worry, come on in. You've missed everything. Any declarations of interest? Councillor Oliver, then Councillor.
Yeah, I just I'm actually got there since going to school in Newport.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry. I'm an associate member of the Governing Board of the Scrutiny Federation, which is chosen by the Council.
So, associate member of the Secretary Federation. Thank you, Councillor Ellis. Any other declarations of interest? No? Marvellous. Any public questions?
We've had none notified, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody wish to ask one already? Feel free to approach the microphone and we'll do our best to get you an answer. And the microphone is just there, so just stand there, press the button on the microphone, just activate the chair. Yeah, okay. I now feel like I'm on the bridge of the Enterprise. Make it so number one.
Just need to get the breath back.
Yeah, so take your time, there's no rush on this. You've got 14 minutes left, there's no need to rush. Yeah, take your time, just nice and steady.
Very right.
If you start with your name and then the question, if you would.
Hi, my name is Julia Lowson, and it's question 4 about the Chillerton Brooklyn Primary School. My questions are, since our meeting with Councillor Andre and the sharing of plans that were well received, whereas the Stenbury Federation continue to hold the school and further plan its demise? Second question is, we've read the quotes of all options having been worked through. Could Councillor Andre please provide us with this list of options and what the results of working through them are?
Okay, Councillor Andre, over to you.
Thank you very much for your question. Okay, so to start with, there needs to be some context, I think, put on this. That when I came into post, the situation was already way down the line. So I would just like to obviously put that out there. I was very happy to meet with the group, but we are in a very different position now from when we were when I met with you, as I'm sure you will agree. Despite one of the options which I went forward with was to keep the school open rather than issue the formal notice at that time to move to the potential closure of the school. Since that time, over a year ago now, the numbers have continued to decline, and as lead member, I have a duty and a responsibility, first and foremost, to those children, to ensure that they have The statutory term is a suitable education, but that's not just about the learning. That is much more than that. It's about, as I'm sure you'll agree, it's about their mental, physical, and especially their social well-being and growth. Now, to have such small numbers with differing ages, it has got to a point where I can no longer say that that is an acceptable or suitable situation for those children. But what I am saying is we are, just to be clear, we are not closing the school. What we are saying is that we can no longer continue, especially bearing in mind that the one and only teacher there is no longer going to be there from January. And I know I will come on to the advertising. So without the teacher there, I know there was a suggestion that a teacher could have been released from God's Hill. God's Hill is fully staffed, but they have no surplus staff to teach a class of year 10 children of differing year groups, 3, 4 and 5. It's just not an option to provide a suitable education for those children.
Could I just interject slightly there?
Of course.
Sorry, you can have a supplementary question. I can't allow
Okay.
debate. It's allowed, but please, by all means, ask a supplementary question.
It's just not answering the question, that's why it's going back to previous discussions.
Well, I think it is important to put things into context. And the context is that we are now in a position where I don't have anywhere else to go. I kept the school open, but the numbers continued to decline. We now no longer have a teacher. I've run out of
Question was,
questions.
why was it not removed from the Stenbury Federation? Because that is the problem.
Well, as I say, that could have happened before I came into post. It hadn't happened. It's not, I think, Steve, you might want to come in, because it's not really for us to determine the removal of a governing board. That's not within our gift, to determine the removal of a governing board from a school. Our statutory responsibility is for those children and to ensure that they have a suitable education. But I'll hand over to Steve now to add to that.
The local authority can remove governing body in the circumstances where there's a financial failure or the school fails an Ofsted rating. Neither are true in the case of Chiltern Rugby. It is a good school. It's been recently assessed by Ofsted as good. And we, as Councillor Andre said, we had hoped that that would bring about some more applications to the school, but it's not the case. We don't have a teacher. The answer is not to reduce the quality of education at God's Hill. It is to make a different judgment, which is to ensure that the children at Chiltern Rugby get a good quality of education elsewhere at God's Hill, or elsewhere that the parents may choose.
When you say financial problems, the school has a massive debt against it. Is that not cause for the council to become involved?
The school has debt because there are insufficient numbers of pupils. So the solution to that is one that we debated previously and decided not to close the school, but actually there is a consolidation for the short term at God's Hill.
So you cannot expect more pupils when you don't open a reception or
Yeah, but that would be down to the school itself. I can see where you're going. I can't allow a debate because it's not appropriate for. We've got any more questions from anyone?
Excuse me, I'll just get
That's all right, take your time.
ready. I disagree with what's just been said. As a mother with a child in school,
I know that I was actually blocked from putting my child into first into Shooton. I was placed my child into Godshill and I was pushed by Mark Snow to do so. And I imagine that has happened many, many times since. And I know another parent who has that has happened to too. So the demise of the children is down to the staffing that you've placed into the foundation. So why is the mismanagement still taking place of the school and hence the purpose demise of the school is there?
Thank you. As I'm sure you're aware, every school has their own complaints procedure, and it wouldn't be appropriate, certainly at the initial stages, for the local authority, for you to come directly to the local authority. So can I ask, have you been through the school's complaints procedure? Because there is a laid down process that is available to you.
I moved from Godshill because it would, and I put it in Shillington at Mr. Snow's dismay after a couple of months, because I wanted her under her own mental health to be where she was comfortable being. And under Section 9 and Section 19, that's where I pushed her to be.
Just to be clear, and Steve, please correct me, is that the school, because it's an academy, or Flex Academy, it's its own admission?
No, it's not an academy.
Because it's not, sorry.
No.
So the admissions go through the local authority?
We had discussed with Councillor Andre before the plan that we tried to formulate with the Island Free School of closure of the school, so it will academise ourselves, or to go with removing it, defederating it from Stenbury, who will cease to be a federation once they only have one school anyway, as far as I'm aware. It can't be a federation of one school. So that we were taken over, or it would be taken over, and we would apply to make it an academy and form a multi-academy trust with the Island Free School. And when I last spoke with Councillor Andre, she said that she was looking at 4 other schools, or 4 schools in total, to do that, to not on the head this problem with lack of primary school children, who, you know, there are a lot of vacancies, but we also have over 500 home educated children, and forming an academy where we could possibly introduce flexi schooling and something more appealing to home educated children. We have a lot of people from the home education side of it, and there's been a lot of discussion that this will be very acceptable to them, and we could be tapping into those numbers. We're talking of a school with a maximum capacity of 90 children, and that's not a lot to fill the school, and I'm sure once it becomes a feed-in for the Island Free School, we wouldn't have any problem with numbers, and we would not just be stealing from other primary schools who are also struggling. It's about creating a school of excellence, a model of excellence, something new post-COVID, where we actually stop going around, as we have done for 70 years at Chilterton and Brooklyn, going not enough kids.
Any further questions from Gary?
No, that's all.
Yeah.
May I ask Councillor Andre why the school wasn't advertised? You said you'd get back to the advertising issue.
Sorry, can you be more specific? Are you talking about advertising for admission places, or are you talking about advertising for a new teacher?
Advertising for admission places.
Yeah. Hang on, I'm just trying to find that. As I said, when the school, when the school became good, there were banners placed at the school outside the school gate, which the school's website offered places. That it was, as a byproduct of some of the debates that have been had around this table, it was well known that the school had places, and I think it's difficult to see what else the school could have done to advertise its presence. In terms of the teacher role, if that's what the question is, that was placed on the Isle of Wight website, the Chilterton Brooklyn website, the Gods Hill website, the Isle of Wight Jobs website, Forces, Families, Jobs, the DWP, and the Isle of Wight Council's Facebook place, and no applications were received for that.
Thank you. That takes us to the end of 15 minutes. Apologies about everything you wanted from that. Please feel free to write.
Yes.
Any further questions?
I have, so please reply to my letter and mine.
Thank
You will get a written response.
Thank you for coming along. It is important that we do hear public voice. Moving on to item 5, progress and outcomes and recommendations from previous meetings. Hopefully some of you may well have some questions on pages 13 to 14. I've got a couple for Councillor Andre and Steve. It's following the report we had from the heads and governors around place planning and school places. What progress has been made and what are the next steps?
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair, for your question. I have got the actual recommendation that was put forward, which I can update on. Just bear with me 1 second. Okay, so the resolution was that the Cabinet Member for Children's Services, Education and Skills be requested to submit the report on school place planning together with the statements from the Isle of Wight primary head teachers and primary chairs of governors to Cabinet for consideration and identification of options regarding the future provision of primary education on the island. I can confirm that the relevant reports and statements were circulated around Cabinet. There have been ongoing discussions. I've got a further meeting with officers tomorrow, and there is going to be a presentation to Cabinet on to informal Cabinet, thank you Steve, informal Cabinet on the 6th of December. And out of that, once Cabinet have come forward informally with their comments, I think it's important to say that we are looking at this as it's a large piece of work. This is not just about Chilterton and Rookley. This is about, the call was from the governors, I think, the Chair of Governors, for a strategic place plan for the island. And that is exactly what we are working on. And I'll let Steve fill in some of the detail.
Just to add to that, the reason for the timing is because the latest NHS data on births and so on comes to us in November. So that helps us to confirm or deny our projections in the future years and firms up another year of birth data. So it means that what we're able to take to Cabinet, informal Cabinet next week, is a much firmer picture than we'd have been able to do even a month ago. So that's the timing, and of course what will then happen is it will then become in due course public. At the very least, we will have it here every September, but I'd anticipate something coming before that.
Thank you. And then following up is, in terms of place planning for secondary schools, we look like we're oversubscribed this year.
Yeah.
Just an explanation really of what the next steps are.
We will do all that place planning all fits together, that we know that the secondary pupils' numbers, and that is a bulge in the system that will ultimately come down.
Any further comments? Councillor?
Yeah, just some confirmation on the school government recruitment retention, when that's likely to go live. It's been on the books now since June 22. A long time to actually get something into the media to start recruiting and retaining school governors.
Yes, thank you for raising that. That was an issue that had been raised. At the time that it was raised, I think there were 101 governor vacancies. That number has actually gone down, so we have been recruiting, but I will get an update for you. I'm quite happy to get a further update.
Any further questions? Councillor?
Thank you, Chairman. It's interesting to note about the numbers of people, the vacancies of school governors. Can you enlarge on that and why it's difficult to recruit and return? Thank you.
I'd suggest, if I can, Chair, that probably the best thing I can do is give a written response to the Chair, which he can distribute to the rest of the meeting, which will give you an update, as you rightly say, on where we've got to, the numbers we've got, and what the plans are for continued recruitment. So if I get a letter back to you ASAP, I'm just taking a a note to do that. Is that okay?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. You're happy with that? Yeah, more in-depth answer, so thank you. Yeah. Anything else? Any questions? No? So, moving on then to item 7, child protection. So, I think we're starting with Derek Benson. Welcome, Derek. There we go.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair. Are you able to hear me okay? Lovely, thank you. I will be very, very brief. It's a privilege to be able to join you this evening and just give you a quick update on the Isle of Wight Safeguarding Children's Partnership annual report to the year ending March the 31st, 2022. Hopefully colleagues have had an opportunity to take some time to go through the annual report. I don't propose to go through it line by line, page by page. It's really to pull out a few key points for you. The yearly report reflects the partnership's vision and our partnership approach, which is around child-focused leadership. We aim to be as effective and ambitious as we can be across the partnership. We look to make sure that those agencies involved in the safeguarding partnership understand their roles and actively engage in multi-agency safeguarding arrangements. We look to create an environment in which multi-agency practice can flourish, where effective information sharing systems operate, which our professionals and practitioners are confident and knowledgeable about. We foster a strong support and challenge culture within the partnership, and we look to follow an ethos of continuous improvement and learning. Within the annual report of the business plan, we divided it into 2 sections, one on long-term strategic objectives, one around shorter in-year objectives. That's supported by the vision I mentioned just now and our key principles, those principles being wherever possible to hear the voice and lived experience of the child, make sure our work is child-centred. We continually seek to engage and involve children, young people and their families. We look to make sure that safeguarding children is everyone's business, and we welcome the opportunity to speak to you and other members this evening. But as the phrase safeguarding is everyone's business is a well-used mantra, but as you will appreciate, as much as it being everyone's business, we do rely on the active engagement of the partner agencies and the key professionals within those agencies. Other principles, we look to learn from our reviews, our scrutiny and our audits, and try and foster a culture of openness and transparency. And I'd like to think we do all of those things I've just outlined to a good standard on the island. In the 2021-22 business plan, our priorities as outlined in the report, they are around safeguarding adolescents, and that is a common theme amongst safeguarding partnerships across the country. I have the honour of working for a number of partnerships. The pressures on our older children are quite different from those that I would have experienced many, many years ago, and we need to be cognizant of those pressures on our young people. There are a number of actions outlined there, areas for further development that are ongoing. Neglect, I'm afraid neglect was an issue when I started working in safeguarding years back, and it still is, and will continue to be so. The cost of living crisis facing this country at the moment will potentially add to issues of neglect, but proactively, Steve, who's with you tonight, and other colleagues are working tirelessly, I would say, to address those issues around neglect and the cost of living crisis wherever and whenever possible. Other priorities in our longer term approach is around protecting children from sexual abuse, both in the home and outside of the home. The structures around child protection in this country are geared towards tackling abuse and neglect in the home. Over recent years, extrafamilial harm, childhood exploitation, both be that sexual or criminal, have taken on a new prevalence and prominence, and we've had to adjust accordingly. Quickly taking you through some of the shorter term activities, which hopefully you may have had briefings on before. The ICON programme, which is an innovative one that Hampshire and the Isle of Wight led on nationally over recent years around what in common parlance might be termed shaken baby syndrome. It's around guidance for young parents, parents of any age, around how to take care of their child, especially when that child is of an age where they may be crying. But the ICON programme is as I say, an innovative set of support mechanisms for parents. We've done work around every sleep counts, that's around safe sleeping, the perils of co-sleeping, and it supports the work that's done by our midwife and health visiting colleagues. Work around learning controls. Hopefully colleagues will have seen some of the very visual images around learning controls. It's an online support and education programme for Key Stage 2. And should anybody wish to attend any of the learning controls events in one of the control suites, I'm sure we could accommodate that. We look to make sure that we circulate information and communication, the learning products produced by the partnership in a timely and effective manner. Work around safeguarding of unborn and newborn babies, talking to colleagues in Southampton today, across the 4 Hampshire partnerships, Portsmouth, Hampshire, the Isle of Wight and Southampton. There's work going on to further improve and raise awareness around safeguarding of unborn and newborn babies. I wasn't proposing to go into much more detail other than to say the partnership on the island is, I think, a strong one. We benefit from the partnership with Hampshire, and Hampshire benefits from the partnership with the island, and there's no sense of complacency at all. But as I exit stage left and hand over to Scott McKechnie as the incoming chair, I think Scott will take it on to even further sort of levels of practice improvement, partnership working, and that's the work that's been done over recent years is testament to colleagues in the council, in education, police, in health, in the voluntary sector, collectively. The partnership, I think, is in a healthy place, and the interests of the children and the young people of the Isle of Wight are very much in the forefront of our thinking on a daily basis. Chair, I wasn't proposing to say anything else.